Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here. This is how to use Nidoking, Nidoqueen, and Sandslash. So let's go and check out these Pokemon, starting off with Nidoqueen. So Nidoqueen's stats are going to be less than Nidoking, so we're going to be looking at Nidoking instead. And that's going to be one of the really interesting things. Sure, Nidoqueen does have a bit more hit points and a little more on the defense, but it's slower and it's going to be less useful offensively. However, if you want to use Nidoqueen, you can. It's just going to be a little bit of a power reduction, but a slight, almost negligible bit of reliability off of those tanky stats. Either way, let's go and look at the breakdown of what's going on right here. With Nidoking, does have more physical attack, but we are going to be paying a lot of attention to that special attack. However, it only has 85 speed. What Nidoking needs more than anything, same with Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen would be very usable if it just got pushed up to a really nice speed tier, because 90, that's usable. 95, that's pretty good with VGC 2016 going on, since Groudon, Primal Groudon, you know, it's 90 base speed. We can beat those Pokemon up, but not in this case, which is very unfortunate. And then, like, if we got to 100 base speed, 105 base speed, that would change the game for using these guys, but unfortunately, it's not quite there. Now, when we look at Sandslash, Sandslash is going to have some pretty interesting stats as well. Suddenly, we have a 100 on our attack and then a 110 on our defense, so a bit of defensive tankiness, but then the graph just kind of drops off. Like, it looks like someone split just a nice straight diagonal line and then put it over to the other side, because our special attack, we're not going to be doing anything special-wise, and our special defense very low as well. Fortunately, being a ground typing, our weaknesses are going to be water, grass, and ice, so those are primarily going to be special attacks, which means we weren't surviving those anyways. Do get immunity to electric, and we do get 2 resistances. Now we hop back over to Nidoking and Nidoqueen and check out their typing. They have the same type, Poison Ground. With the Poison Ground typing, don't worry, it's not weak against Dragon or Dark. I just tried to compact it to save some space right there. But we have it to where we do have a weakness against Ground, so gaining that from Poison, Psychic, Water, and Ice. Good little bit of weaknesses. Some of them are common, like Ground and Ice. We will see Water from time to time, so that's what we're dealing with. We do gain some resistances, though. Fairy, Bug, Rock, Poison, and Fighting, and we keep our Electric immunity. That's pretty much what we have right there, so let's go and hop into Pokemon Showdown. Go and look at Nidoking, because Nidoking is going to just be objectively more powerful. Higher speed, higher special attack, higher attack. I mean, it's a clear sign of the patriarchy at work right now, and it just proves that Game Freak is full of misogyny. I mean, just look right here. Higher defenses. Come on, you're not fooling anyone. This is just because Nidoqueen is the mother representative right here, and it's supposed to be taking care of the young and defending the home like these pre-assigned gender roles. I cannot support a company like this, but I guess I have to go and finish off this guide anyways, because I will review every Pokemon. So let's go and see what Nidoking is capable of. Even though Nidoqueen can still do just as much work, it doesn't matter that it has less power, we can still make it happen, you know. So let's go and look at the coverage, which is actually really amazing. I mean, Nidoking, if we look, Ice Beam, Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, Sludge Bomb, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, we even get Surf, and we have all kinds of ridiculous coverage, which is what makes us such a great special attacker, and this is why we're going to be using that special attack over the physical stat, because 102 is definitely a higher number on that physical attack. However, we're going to be playing that sheer force, and we can also just go and look at numbers. So if we pull up Nidoking or any one of these right here and say Ice Punch, well, Ice Punch is going to have 75 base power compared to 90. So there's a bigger difference right here, and we're going to be getting a lot more boosting off of that Life Orb, a lot more boosting off of that Sheer Force, which is the ability. Sheer Force plus this coverage makes Nidoking and Nidoqueen absolutely nuts to use. When we look at this, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Sludge Bomb, Earth Power, or whatever other coverage you want to throw in. If you want to throw in a Surf or a Thunderbolt to take out different kinds of Pokemon, you can certainly do that, and it's still just going to have massive amounts of damage because Sheer Force. Any attack with secondary effect has 30% more power, nullifies the effects, Life Orb, 30% more power. So that's really good right there. And the way we're going to be playing this is that when we look at our Life Orb, the damage, losing 1/10 your max hit points, is actually not going to come into effect if we are going to be using a move that's affected by Sheer Force. So all of these moves are going to negate that damage from the Life Orb, and it can also play around with your opponent a bit. They're not going to know if you have Choice Specs or Life Orb, because you don't get to see the artifacts of any of that, so you might think your choice, maybe not. As for Scarf, it does seem like a really good way of patching up Nidoking's speed problems, but the thing about Nidoking is you're playing for the coverage. You're coming in to where almost any Pokemon that you can respond to, you're going to be able to hit super effective or find an incredibly powerful hit for. Scarfing takes away from that, and also, you know, if you are hitting neutral hits, like, it still works out pretty well. Like Sludge Bomb, you outspeed your opponent, land a Sludge Bomb, take a hit. Fortunately, we have a decent amount of stats to make it work, and this is where you'd run Nidoqueen. I say that Nidoking is going to be the Life Orb Pokemon, Nidoqueen would be the Scarf Pokemon, because you can still Sheer Force, Sludge Wave, all kinds of damage, and then you're looking at a lot of neutral 2-hit KOs, and Nidoking's going to be better at that because it's meant to take that hit. So it can get beat up on a little better and then do a bit more work under that Scarf. If you switch out into a tank, something like a Moongus with a Regenerator, a Alola has Regenerator, Wish, or Recovering Pokemon, that way you can switch out, take the hit, shrug it off, outstall. Next time Nidoqueen comes in, it's going to be there for the right setup. You know, it can hit that super effective hit. Very strong revenge Pokemon, so if you bring it in as constant revenge for super effective coverage, that can work while getting a lot of outspeeds. So that's pretty much it. And as you can see right here, I just brought this up. Let's go and try to get this as level as possible. It's almost the same. For some reason, Nidoqueen gets Aerial Ace over the Nidoking, and then like also has like the superpower fighting from the start compared to like the Mega Horn on Nidoking. But that's kind of it. Also, I wanted to make another note on the Sheer Force, like Earth Power versus Earthquake. Earth Power is going to be stab, and it's going to get more damage than the Earthquake, because Earthquake doesn't benefit from Sheer Force, so it's just going to go way beyond on the damage right there, and that's kind of where everything's being made up by the Sheer Force. So just things to consider when you run that. Physical Nidoking still possible, but also like there's a lot more physical defensive Pokemon than special defense, so Nidoking is going to be best used as a wall breaker. With special Nidoking, you're not going to be susceptible to burn either, and being the ground type, paralysis isn't a big deal unless it's like that rare usage of glare that you might see from time to time. But overall, Nidoking is going to have a lot of status immunity when you can play against. So if you're up against something that wants to burn kind of threats to weaken their power, Nidoking can bust right through that with some coverage, and then it's going to be very good. Also, Sludge Bomb. Actually, wait, you don't want Sludge Bomb, you want Sludge Wave. Just a little bit more power out of it, and it's really nice. Like, Sludge Wave is so free, still 100% accuracy, still 95 power, and Nidoking is one of the few Pokemon that get access to the Sludge Wave over the Sludge Bomb, which means ultimate fairy destruction right here on the Nidoking, which is really nice. I think that's really all there is about Nidoking right here. I brought up a little extra damage calculation as well. So at level 50, so standard battle, if you are outspeeding or not getting destroyed by Primal Groudon, we can see that the Earth Power has enough damage to take out some defensively invested super effective hits. This isn't anything about matchups, this is just a power check. And say we had just a blank slate Pokemon, so we reviewed Raichu recently, and ignoring the Earth Power, which would one-hit KO it, just kind of shows this neutral power, like neutral effectiveness that we get. So slightly lacking on the damage in some situations, but at the same time, say if we had a modest nature, yeah, we'd be able to KO a bit more. But that's where like our speed issues come into play. So if we had a faster Pokemon, we could do a little more Nidoking on that front. It'd be looking pretty good. But still, you're going to be surprised by amounts of damage. If we had Stealth Rocks up, that's a lot more neutral KOs. If we bring in later in the game, can go off and start finishing off Pokemon if we just use it exclusively for tanks and coverage. It does have a good amount of power, but there's a reason why you don't see it all over the place. And oh my goodness, before we start talking about Sandslash, I just noticed another issue right here. The ability Rivalry is so homophobic. Like, you're encouraging violence against those of the same gender. That is not okay. Okay, I'm going to forget about this. I'm going to start talking about Sandslash, because Sandslash is a fairly interesting Pokemon. Does get the Endure, so I guess Endure Salak Berry, kind of a combo to talk about. Unfortunately, Sandslash is pretty slow, but it kind of doesn't really matter too much since like we can Endure Salak Berry up to a decent sweeping range. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us just enough speed at level 50 to outspeed a Pokemon like Greninja. So I guess that can actually mean something, and if we can get it going just right, we can actually put out a good amount of damage if we run something like these Swords Dance. So that's the play right here. What we want to do is we want to use Swords Dance, and if we survive that first hit, hopefully against a physical attacker, we use Endure, we drop down to 1 hit point, Salak Berry is going to activate, and then we get access to the Earthquake and the Flail. Flail is just such a crazy powerful move that it gets 200 base power when you are at 1 to 4% hit points. So at 1 hit point from that Endure, we're going to have more base power than a Stab Earthquake. So Swords Dance, Endure into Flail. Hopefully you one-shot everything, and then we'll be good to go. Earthquake will just be for coverage, because hey, look at that. We get to hit Steel and Rock types for super effective damage. This is pretty much all I've come up with Sandslash. Other than that, Sandslash does get some interesting stuff, like you just run offensive. Offensive isn't going to really do you as much, but it lets you run like a little bit of extra coverage, you know, Gyro Ball, Rock Slide. You could technically run Stone Edge with like Hone Claws after that, I'm just not a big fan of Stone Edge. I've seen it miss. Like, Stone Edge has won more games for me from the opponent missing than I can really count, and I'm just not a big fan of it. But if you need the rock coverage, it's just better to go with the rock slide, or even at that point, that's when you set up a Stealth Rocks on Sandslash as well, because when you think about it, Hone Claws plus Stone Edge is going to give you the same damage, but a little better accuracy as Swords Dance plus the rock slide, but then we're getting more damage on our Earthquake and our Gyro Ball anyways. Gyro Ball is also really interesting on Sandslash because you want to be either a really slow Pokemon using it on a really fast Pokemon, but with this we're like a middling speed, so we do okay damage against other moderately slow Pokemon, and we don't do as much damage to faster Pokemon, so it kind of pinches us in like a weird speed situation. As for item, you know, I can't really think of one, because you're trying to set up with a Swords Dance or something at that range, so using a Scarf doesn't make any sense. Life Orb, you're taking too much damage. Focus Sash, that means you need to set up Swords Dance, get one shot, and then still outspeed the opponent, which is something you don't really see too often anyways, so item scenarios are weird on Sandslash. I don't recommend this offensive set, really. Like, I think that this is going to be the best set that you can come up with Sandslash. Other than that, you can also run it as a more of a support Pokemon. Has Bulldoze, so it can do a little bit of damage and lower your opponent's speed. Has Knockoff, removes item, and then can also Rapid Spin or counter. That's if you're running a Focus Sash or more defensively oriented Sandslash, but we can also just run Stealth Rocks. Like, this right here is its own pretty good set. I just recommend like high hit point, high defensive investment, maybe even split on that special defense if you want to be tanky. It depends on what you want to go for. Like, this is your Pokemon, you can create it however you want. So if you want a balanced tank, go with this. If you want, actually, I'd probably even just go with the Impish instead. So if you want a balanced tank, you can try something like this. If you just want a full defensive tank, you can run this, and that means this is going to give you a lot of opportunities against different opening Pokemon. Throughout the Stealth Rocks, well then if they Stealth Rocks you back, or Spikes, or Sticky Web, you Rapid Spin. So then you can knock off Bulldoze, and now you're pretty much eliminating your opponent's chance of setting up, weakening their entry Pokemon. If they switch that Pokemon out, might be able to remove an item or slow it down. So Sandslash is going like 1-for-1, removing their setup while maintaining your own setup, and then trying to get like a little bit of status on top of it before going down. It can just be a frustrating physical Pokemon. With this, you can run Leftovers, Citrus Berry, Rocky Helmet, all kinds of items will work right here. And that's kind of it. As for abilities, you know, it's all sand reliant, so unless you're going for a sand team, then you can maybe add on top of it offensive Sandslash and Sandstream with a Bright Powder could be a little bit of hacks right there. Maybe tacking on just a double team for fun, but then we're getting some unreliability and whatnot, so I don't think it's worth it. Either way, that's how you use Nidoking, Sandslash, Nidoqueen, all kinds of craziness today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.